Alright, are we healthy and up? Are we good to go? Okay, I think we're good. I can hear myself on the other stream, and we are good to go. Alrighty. Okay, I'm gonna start today with a takedown video that I've watched 2 minutes of, and I disagree with most of the arguments. They're either given as pretty dishonest or just attempting to have very charitable interpretations of their own arguments and not really listening or understanding the other person's. This is going to be a Vosh takedown because... Oh, I should probably just swap the scene. Yeah. This is not new. I'm not going, but it does present a good way of dealing with people who say, like, oh, you're just such a skeptic. You don't believe in anything. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Let's just get to the actual specific arguments, though. Oh, come on, YouTube. Oh, there we go. There we go. So this is the first thing I'm going to start with. It's all completely arbitrary. If you're working from a particular theory, sure, I guess you could say that. But as we'll get into a little bit later, what he means by arbitrary is just inherent meaning to things. And I don't know if I have to explain this, but a lot of things do not have some kind of inherent meaning. And we're going to get more into this as he presents some better arguments, more specific arguments. I mean, you would call it a skeptic, someone who assesses things only based on evidence and does not assume that they know anything until that thing can be specifically proven. That's what a skeptic is. I mean, yeah, you do. You need to work on rhetoric, man. Sorry, that's Betty. I need to turn this up. I need to turn this up. Yeah, I'm gonna go through some BreadTube today as well, just to see what's new, see what's going on. Well, math is subjective. It does depend on the system in which you are working. That's math is a particular system. Like, are you talking geometry? Are you talking calculus? Are you talking a non-Euclidean system? Yes, math is dependent on the system in which you're working. It is not objective. Tries to be, but just because something wants to be objective doesn't mean that it is objective. Oh, God. You know what? No, I'm going to listen for the answer to this to see if they actually have him give an answer. Okay, so I'll respond to this instead because he just gives an attack. um, but if those are your only two options, your best option is the first one, because in the first one, you're attempting to find, it's the same theory of truth that I follow, that the only thing that determines what is true is evidence. If you cannot prove it to be true, it is not true. Pretty simple. And the other one is what I want to believe. But the problem is that if you want to believe that you can walk directly across a street full of cars and not be hurt, well, you can believe that, but it doesn't mean anything, like, at all. It's completely and totally irrelevant to the situation. Just because you believe something doesn't mean that thing is true. Whereas if you're basing yourself off of empirical evidence and what can be shown to be true, not what you want to be true, you're going to take a look at the street full of cars and go, maybe I shouldn't cross while there's 80 cars moving across the street. You know, if one hits me, I will probably die, rather than believing that you will phase through them or that they'll all just stop in unison to let you go past wherever you want. There's a lot of benefits in telling things that are actually true and based off evidence. I wouldn't argue that a true statement is necessarily a moral statement, because you can say something that's true that's immoral. Just because it's true doesn't mean it's good. Just because something's fake doesn't make it bad. So I would argue that lying is usually a bad thing. Though again, it depends on circumstance. That's not what nihilism means. That's also not nihilism. That's, I guess you could call that relativism, but that's not nihilism. Oh, no, sorry. Right, because whether it happened or not is actually dependent on evidence. If you want to point at that and go, well, it didn't happen because I don't want it to have happened, well, great. But if the evidence to the contrary points to it being, real, then it has absolutely nothing to do with whether you like it or not. The Challenger blew up. A lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people wish that hadn't happened, but it doesn't matter. Even if you don't want to believe in it, there's still evidence to prove that it's true. This I disagree with. It's not about power. When someone is denying the Holocaust, they're not doing it because they want to feel powerful or in control. They're doing it to form a narrative, to form like a story that they're trying to follow. And they're trying to use that story as an argument for their point. It's not about like power grabs. That's not what nihilism means. That's interesting. So, one moral position is not inherently more justified than another, which is true, because all morals are found on presuppositions. You have to assume that something is true, and then if that is true, take it a step further. But, like, even math works that way. Literally, everything works that way. If you go back far enough, you will eventually reach something that you cannot justify, that you have to assume to be true. And the idea is to have as few and as simple presuppositions as you possibly can to build everything else out of. Because if your presupposition is massively complicated and really awkwardly worded, then it probably has a bunch of hidden presuppositions in it that you just aren't stating. Yes. That is the most uncharitable position that you could have ascribed to what he is saying there. It's just, oh, well, you think that things are relative, so you hate absolutely everything about everything, and you only do this to yell at people to make yourself feel good. No. It's not. It's the most uncharitable position you could literally put on what this guy is saying right now, on what Vaush is saying. I think this is this the math one? Because this is one of my favorites. It's about as far as I got. About 6 minutes in. What theory of truth is going to be right or not? If you need to come up with a theory of truth, then you're already going off into some weird philosophical grounds. Like most theories of truth are really just circular logic, just people sitting there going, well, this is true because I want it to be true, or here's a bunch of presuppositions that I must be true. And it's like, okay, fine. But like, realistically, the only thing that can determine truth is the real world and things we all agree on. That's it. Oh yeah, I think so. Foundations of Math, Pepe laugh from the chat there. Absolutely. Well, that's because you're wrong. It's very hard to argue my point when I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah, that's a great way to sum it up. Yeah, and if you lived by that system, you would die, and no one would take you seriously. Because the problem with those positions is you still have to live in a reality with other people. And if you live my life by, I flip a coin, and I'm right, or if I flip a coin and the other cat, it lands on the other side, and I'm also right, nobody is ever going to have a conversation with you. Because you can't acknowledge positions that you don't agree with. Yes. Yes. within my argument. It all leads back to this. I don't see how. But yeah, everything, even the words that they're using, have subjective meanings. That's what language is. If you were to talk to somebody who spoke a different language, they would not understand you because they don't understand the concepts that those words refer to. Yeah, it right there on the screen. I mean, the collective understanding of words has utility. Like, yeah, if you just use whatever definitions of words that you want to, nobody is going to understand what you're saying. It's about communication. Words have meaning because we collectively agree on the meaning of words. Outside of that, it's completely arbitrary whether or not gray refers to the color or gray refers to, I don't know, some kind of blimp. Like, it is arbitrary. And as long as we agree, we can have a conversation. As long as we have a conversation, we can make arguments. That's how language works, man. Again, well, then you can't live in the world. And I understand that he's trying to make he's trying to make an argument here that if this is how I live, like, that's just as valid as yours. And no, it's not just as valid as yours, because your position does not help you communicate with other people at all. Like, you haven't even pulled out. You haven't even mentioned this as a hypothetical situation. Or you did, but you cut out a bunch of stuff in between, so I don't know how far it's going. And yeah, that's not a reductive. Oh, how'd I turn on captions? That was weird. Oh, I must hit C. Because I'm hitting spacebar, that's why I sometimes stop randomly. Yeah, I literally don't. This is... I think he's in... And of course now the word just completely fades from my mind. What is it? He's creating a hypothetical argument. He's saying that if someone were to live by this system, it would be inherently dumb. Yeah, it would be. This is a dumb system to live by. And we all agree that it's a dumb system because it means that you can't have a conversation with anyone or ever be wrong about anything. It's like, okay, sure, that seems good to you, but it means that nobody is going to ever have a conversation or attempt to argue anything with you because it's literally a waste of time. And yeah, you're probably going to get yourself killed because you're going to be like, oh, okay. You know, walk up to a street, flips his thing, flips a coin. Okay, well, I guess I can just walk across, and then you die. Acknowledging objective reality is important. And I guarantee you no one would live by this system, because if you live by this system, it would get you killed. Logic is important. No, it doesn't work. Because the whole point of Vosh's framework is to have a conversation, an argument with somebody, and to acknowledge that yes, these things are inherently arbitrary. I'm just repeating myself. I'm just going to keep going. I mean, I guess I kind of agree with this, but expecting you to immediately state all your presuppositions at the beginning of an argument is kind of silly. I mean, I guess if you're like in a formal debate where you have a whole thing written out and you're really not like talking to the other person or really rebutting their positions so much as reading off of a script, I guess you could go with that. But if you're just going to try to sit there and form definitions, you can literally do that all day. Yeah, you can spend hours just trying to make sure that all the words that you agree on have the same meaning and that you are working from the same foundational principles and that you agree on those foundational principles. Like, that's literally hours and hours of argument, and almost nobody actually thinks about or cares about those things. They just care about the argument and who sounds better in it. It really is all about rhetoric. Sorry, cat. Cat being bad. Bad. We're a bad one. Yeah, that's right. I mean, most of them don't, because you can't objectively like. Let's just take murder, just as an example. Is murder bad? Well, probably under most circumstances, yes, but it depends on the circumstances. Is theft bad? Depends on the circumstances. And you can work with presuppositions saying all murder is wrong, always killing someone is wrong, but how do you justify cops? You justify military operations. And maybe you don't. Maybe you say, well, all police officers shouldn't be there. Like, no one should have guns. We shouldn't have a military. Okay, well then how do you defend yourself against people who don't hold your presuppositions? What do you deal with? How do you deal with the fact that some people are going to go, well, okay, and then they're just going to shoot you and take your stuff? Like, you need a framework that works within the foundations of the actual world. And most moral statements do not have objective quality unless they're very, very specific. The more specific you get with a statement, the more it can be true. But even then, you can almost always add or remove one bit of the framework and completely change whether or not the statement is actually true or not. It's literally the trolley problem. Like, you can hand somebody the trolley problem at a very, very basic level and everyone can just figure something out, but the moment you change even a little bit of it, it can drastically alter the morality of the system and whether or not people think that they should work with it. Well, also arbitrary is probably the wrong word to use in this situation, because arbitrary means it absolutely has nothing to do with anything, whereas in a moral statement does have, like, connections to reality, but it's up to subjective preference whether or not they're good or bad. Now, if your question is, does this make the world a better place? Does this make people happier? If you form like a foundation of, okay, this is what I want to happen, and then you can then your statements about morality can be objective to your goals. Like, if I want to increase human well-being, this statement will do that, therefore this statement is moral. But if well-being isn't my foundation, and my foundation is, harm, wanting people hurt, this thing doesn't cause that, then the thing is immoral. It's about collective agreement and arguing that there should be certain foundations for your systems because they're better not just for you, but for everybody. Also, this whole time he's been talking about, the Holocaust denial, but denying the Holocaust isn't a position of morality. like it's a statement of fact that can be objectively verified. He's making an argument about moral realism and then making arguments that aren't moral. And he says this is a reductio ad absurdum. Well, he just did, so suck it up, princess. Oh. Yeah, also, right there, all of the clips you showed, he never actually denied the Holocaust in any sort of way. That is not something you've actually proven. You just keep saying that he did that, and then don't show clips of him doing that. So, that's literally just making shit up. You're literally making shit up right now. This is super bad faith. No. Unironically, no, that's not his position. And that's not at all what he said. And this is why I say this is super bad faith and super uncharitable. He didn't say that, because statements about reality can be objective. Whether or not the Holocaust happened or not is an objective statement, right? Even most Nazis don't argue that it happened, they just argue that there was less of it. Like, that just less people died and the numbers were inflated, which, I mean, frankly, they could be. I don't know. But that statement isn't a moral statement. It's a statement about objective reality that can be proven or disproven with evidence. A moral statement would be whether or not it is good or bad, whether or not it caused positive changes or not. Again, you're making a moral argument or arguing morality about something that isn't morality. Moral statements are relative. Statements about reality can be relative, but also can be empirical. I mean, you've accused him of that multiple times, and only when someone in your chat points out to you that, you know, you haven't actually shown that, that's when you say this argument. Yeah. Oh, he denied the Holocaust. He denied the Holocaust. He denied the Holocaust. Someone points out that, you know, he hasn't. Well, I'm not saying he denied the Holocaust. Fucking joker. Clown. Oh, that's not true at all. Wittgenstein's absolutely wrong about that, if he even did say that. Human beings can absolutely think in ways that aren't logical, specifically by convincing themselves that it is logical with lies. Because it's very easy to believe something that doesn't actually follow if A, you don't know logic, or B, you're using, like, logical absurdities. Like, you just brought up reductio ad absurdum. It's a logical fallacy. Like, you can live your life by a logical fallacy if you don't know that it is, don't know what one of those is, and don't know why they're bad. Like, yeah, there are some aspects of human life that have to be rational and logical, but, like, if you think people don't, or can live their lives only ever being rational and can't be non-rational, then you have not seen some of the crazy shit that people have done over the years. There are people who've thought that they could fly and jumped off buildings. Was that logical? No, it wasn't logical. You ever hear most people argue? It's not logic, it's emotion. It's what they want to believe. And what I think about this guy and whoever the guy off screen is, who I just don't know, what they seem to be wanting to do is, this seems like ego boosting to me. This is, we lost an argument, and we're the ones that are right, and he's the ones that are wrong. So let's just clip all of the things that make him look the worst and also make up stuff about him. Which is, again, super bad faith. Do you think that when he was saying that he might be talking about the moral value most people talk about and not the actual event? Yes, I'm pretty sure that's it. It's the moral value of the event, not whether the event happened or not. Again, even most Nazis don't disagree the Holocaust happened. They just think that a lot of it was faked in order to make it look so much worse. Jesus, we're only 10 minutes into this thing. No, I'm going to go through the whole thing. I want to. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, I did get rid of that little box around the CC. Cool. I'm not high enough for this. All right, let me take a hit. I'm not baked enough for this shit. I do like the library behind this guy though. Just the sheer number of books. I like that. Sorry, I like reading. Reading's awesome. Alright. If you don't commit yourself fully to the laws of logic, you're no different from someone with psychosis. Wow. That is such a ridiculous statement. That's absolutely absurd. Most people on planet Earth don't know the laws of logic and therefore cannot commit themselves to them. Like, arguing that all of those people are no different from someone who is basically not living in reality is utterly absurd. Like, it's actually ridiculous. That is such a bullshit fucking statement. No, if you don't commit yourself to perfectly living every aspect of your life in accordance with the laws of logic as I see them, then you are a crazy person and you should be locked up. Fuck you. You're definitely insane. You know, eat shit. Oh, shit. That's a little extreme, but it's not untrue. Okay. And now we're at the point of, well, even things are all grounded in metaphysical claims eventually. No, that's absolutely not true. If we build a system and I have a ruler and I say, this thing is 4 inches, and you say, no, it's not, it's 12 inches. Like, okay, what's your definition of an inch? Sure. But if you go, no, an inch is a completely meaningless metaphysical thing, and we can't possibly know how long that thing actually is in any empirical way. It's like, okay, yeah, jackass, but we built a system for measurement. This is our system for measurement. We all understand how long a centimeter or an inch is, and we use that to measure things. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it empirical. It exists outside of our particular personal moral justifications or anything. Again, you're making relative arguments in a statement that is empirical. And I guess Vosh kind of is, but he's saying that the only thing, like, you can only make arguments with people to change their definitions and things like that, to change their presuppositions. You can't, like, demand that they live their life in a particular way because it's more objectively true than another way. Most people don't actually care about that. They say they will, but they don't actually. I actually sort of agree with this. That if you're asking, for example, in number two, does it exist in the numerical system? Sure, but does it exist in like some transcendent quality? Yeah, that is kind of dependent on the person. My personal answer is no. Numbers don't exist in like some transcendent metaphysical way. They're just a way of representing incrementing amounts, and that amount is just based off of whatever arbitrary standard you want to hold. Take the difference between 1 centimeter and 1 inch. Not the same thing. But if you were to say a pound of feathers or a pound of bricks, it is the same thing. They're not metaphysical. They're based on the system that you're using it. Also, this is a philosopher arguing with a sociologist, so it's not surprising they have fundamentally different understandings of how the world works. You need to have a framework capable of utilizing all of that. Your framework needs to be capable of growing and expanding. You can't just say and swap frameworks whenever you encounter a new argument. If you're doing that, then you're arguing in bad faith. You're literally changing how you perceive the world on a normal basis, dependent entirely on what the person is arguing, which basically means you're just going to use whatever system beats them, and you're not actually like contending with their argument. Because when they go to attempt to do that in real life, they have to deal with the fact that you've now given them 4 separate, completely conflicting moral systems to work with. Or you could ask them. I mean, that always works. Oh my god, yeah. I mean, you could hope that there's some kind of transcendent quality, or you could just ask them what they fucking mean and ask them to clarify. I mean, yeah, don't get into it forever, but I mean, I guess they could lie. Well, measured against what about reality? Because if you're coming to a moral stance and measuring against reality, it depends entirely on what you're trying to accomplish. Because if my moral system is based on harm, based on causing people suffering or maximizing my own self-interest, I could do terribly immoral things under those frameworks that to me are completely moral. So if your argument is, well, killing people is bad, and I go, well, killing people causes suffering, and killing people means I get to take their stuff, so therefore killing is good, your argument wouldn't work against that person if they were working from that completely foundational thing. You'd have to argue that their very presupposition that harm and self-interest are good are inherently wrong. But you're arguing that they'd have to be inherently wrong, but it's like, you can't argue that. You can't argue that that's inherently wrong, because if they only care about themselves, maximizing their own self-interest is a perfectly rational way of living your life. You'd have to argue that living your life that way isn't just worse for them, it's worse for you. And you can do that. It's actually very easy to do that. He makes everything possible by making everything impossible. Come on, guys. Okay, that's kind of a dumb statement he made there. I don't think everything downstream of relative is relative. Like, yeah, if you go back eventually you can get to relative, but there are statements that can be made objectively. Yeah, you've never come into contact with the Stanislavski opinion, an opinion that's only held as long as it can be argued. Most people do grow out of that, and I think that this is what, a year ago? This is some older Vosh. I think he's gotten better at that. But honestly, yeah, in most of his arguments, he basically just comes off as, I will argue any position that I want to and I will believe that it is true only so long as I am arguing it. Which, I mean, it's a valid tactic for trying to like present a devil's advocate, but it's really, really bad at getting whatever you actually believe out to the world. Ethical consumption. That's a good question. There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. There isn't. Like, because everything, in terms of ethical consumption, when you consume something, you have to take it from something else. At least I'm pretty sure that's the basis. But in a capitalist world, because everything is so interconnected in a way that you don't see or hear or ever even get mentioned, like buying a game console that you want to enjoy is technically feeding like dozens of other industries in third world areas that you have no idea of like the ethics of. Technically anything you buy could be unethical. Like avocados was a big one. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can pull that up. Avocado from Mexico. Yeah, here, I think this is it. Why avocados attract interest from cartels. Yeah, it's Mexican officials to the body of a second murdered activist who worked at Biosphere. Reports on the murder of a clandestine avocado farms have something to do with it. Because it turns out that a bunch of the cartels actually extort or own or informally own different of the avocado ones. So technically when you buy avocados, you're supporting Mexican drug cartels. And if you didn't know that until now, you do now. Also, for blueberries, strawberries, and blackberries, many berry producers are also being taxed by drug cartels. So blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, avocados, you're paying Mexican drug cartels. And, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. Because under a different system, under socialism, you could absolutely not have this. I mean, you could still have it. This is, cartels, but under a socialist system, you would have less money coalesced at the top, and these people wouldn't need to do things like this in order to get, rich. I'm not saying socialism solves all crime. I'm saying that it absolutely helps when most of the resources are not at the top, but instead more evenly distributed amongst the bottom. You have a lot less people that need to engage in crime, and it's a lot easier to deal with the crime. That's it. That's all. Sorry, that was a tangent. I just saw the ethical consumption thing, and I couldn't go in. I'm actually hoping I'm doing that right. Ethical consumption. About making connections between a product, where the product originated. No, yeah, that's ethical consumption. All right, I was right. Good. But yeah, it's basically under the system where is there really such a thing as ethical consumption or ethical consumerism? It's like right now, no. Can't. There's almost nothing you can buy that isn't affected by like third world slaves or Chinese sweatshop workers or drug cartels or whatever. But you can't live your life not buying anything or consuming anything. It's just not possible. Wait, hold on. Let me go back. What the fuck did he just say? Well, yeah, people go into higher education because they believe something is true? What? I can't imagine someone would ever go into a field not believing that that field is correct. I mean, yeah, that is what he does, and it's not great sometimes. It's really frustrating to watch sometimes. Oh yeah, the woke fascist. Super fun. I will say that some of Vosh's actual rhetorical strategies are very similar to fascists because he argues with them all the fucking time. Uh, but yeah, no, he's not a fascist. Ultra nationalism is not a thing that he has. Sorry, what? No, no. Well, she's all scared. Sorry, my baby cat is very, very scared. She's very Heidi at the moment. Yeah, she's in there somewhere. Ah, all right. Sorry about that. Oh, poor girl, poor baby. He's not a solipsist. Okay, he's not a solipsist. Yes, you are ignorant, Bosch. I mean, yeah, everyone's ignorant on something. But holy fucking shit, he's not a goddamn solipsist. He's literally arguing against axioms. He's literally arguing that, like, you don't have to have any foundational beliefs beyond. Like, good is just a thing. And it's, like, empirically verifiable. It's like, no, that's not how empiricism works. That's not how good works. You make relative statements, or statements that are axioms, and then you base your arguments on those things. This also comes off as very trolly, like he's just being a fucking dipshit and making jokes. It very much feels like he's just fucking with these guys half the time, but I mean that's just how Vosh argues. So I can't actually argue how many of these are like factually true or whether he believes them or not. But yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I can barely see it, but objective facts don't equate to objective morality. Yes. Because there's evidence independently of it. What? Oh, okay. Good one. I mean, you're not wrong. He's not wrong. But my contention with Vosh's claim is that just because something is historically accurate doesn't mean it's correct or good. Like, yeah, all of history has worked that way, where if we have a fundamental disagreement and, we can't possibly connect or do that with each other, then we just end up killing each other. Yeah, that is all of history. But I would argue, from a moral standpoint, that that's not necessarily a good thing. And from an objective standpoint, that's not something we should necessarily emulate, because it doesn't really work out well for most people. When you just kill everybody that disagrees with you, you kind of end up with a society that doesn't function and is gonna get overwhelmed by a more functional communal society. Because that's the problem, is that's one of the reasons why tolerance is important. Because if you don't tolerate people with different opinions than you just end up killing a bunch of people, your society destabilizes, and a better, more functional, more communal society comes over and takes over you. Yeah, that's history. Why civil wars are bad. It's why storming the fucking capital of your nation is usually a bad thing. Usually. There are situations where I would say that it's actually pretty good, because the person there is actively making life worse for the majority of the populace. You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna go get some water. I'm an hour in. I'm gonna go get some water. I'll be right back. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Let's get back to it here. Alright. I also love that image. Was Karl Marx a communist? Points at the thing. It's like, it reminds me very much of the conspiracy theory thing, like with all the lines and the crazy conspiracy guy. I love it. Mostly because conspiracy theorists are insane. Most of them are insane. I'm sure a few of them are actually quite rational people and actually have quite rational belief side of those particular ones, but yeah. Usually they're just crazy people. Oh no, that's absolutely true. 100%. You shouldn't listen to Vaush at all when he's in like a straight up argument, because he is absolutely just gonna say whatever he needs to say to win the argument. Like, rhetorically, that's absolutely how he is. Because in like a debate argument, most of the actual like conversation is really just about power. It's about displaying dominance. It's about overpowering the other person, and also not making stuff that can be like directly argued against, like saying factually incorrect statements. Because if you just say something verifiably, fundamentally wrong, 2 + 2 = 7, and the person's like, what the fuck do you mean? The fuck did you just say to me? Right? Even though the second person isn't really making an argument, if you don't believe the first person and they don't present enough evidence for their position, all you really have to do is just attack. Like, it is all rhetoric. And that's one of the things that these guys do not have down. They're sitting there arguing with someone who can just go, yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah, what's the matter? Because they don't have an actual argument against his position. Because it is all relative. And they're like, well, I have to show you a way that that's dumb. And then the way they show you that that's dumb, they're just like, well, if you lived your life by this principle, it would be dumb. It's like, yeah, it would. Good thing that's not what I said. Sorry, argumentation is, in and of itself, it is mostly about just overwhelming the other person. I mean, and being right. If you have a bunch of, facts on your side, it does help. Okay, that's a word that I actually don't know off the top of my head. A priori. Relating to or denoting reason or knowledge which proceeds from theoretical deduction rather than from observation or experience. Okay, so a priori just means something that can't or hasn't been observed or experienced. It's all completely theoretical. As an adverb in a way based on theoretical deduction rather than empirical. So a priori observations about the human race would be deduced or theoretical observations rather than observed or experienced ones. Okay. Let's just go back and read. Yeah, unless you've never experienced an action which you might consider moral. Of course not. Moral deductions are based off of evidence. It's evidence, cause to effect, not effect to cause. One second. I'll be back. Let me put Karl Marx back up. There he is. Oh, sorry about that. Cats were being bad. Yeah. Ah. I'm gonna have to alter my setup a little between streams, but this has actually been a lot of fun. This is really enjoyable. Alright. Back to Vaush. His beautiful beard. Need to keep growing my beard out. Oh, wow. Okay. That was weird. Okay. An a priori understanding of human morality. Okay, sure. Let's go with that. Okay, I'm going to talk about this. 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. Not always. I mean, it does within, like, the system, but it's not an empirical statement. It's an empirical statement if you're working within Euclidean mathematics, but Euclidean mathematics is not objectively true. Because, like, all the fucking books behind this asshole, and he hasn't read the fucking elements, and he doesn't understand the basis of mathematics. Because if you do 2 plus 2 equals 4, sure, alright, within a purely Euclidean system, that works. What if you're not working within a purely Euclidean system? Or, what if your purely Euclidean system is attempting to measure something that isn't Euclidean? And by Euclidean, I mean, foundation of mathematics. You have Euclid, and then everybody built up through, like, geometry and calculus, and all of that is just built on top of Euclid systems. It's all a Euclidean system that we have been taught in school. But the problem is that if you look at his foundational presuppositions, the things he used to lay out his math are not true, or at least there are unstated assumptions in them. Specifically the assumption, and the one that we realized, which is that his system assumes and only works if you are working within a completely flat plane. Now, as we eventually discovered, not only do we not live on a flat world, we don't live in a flat universe. We live in a 3-dimensional curved time space. So, and it's just the problem of when you're working on such a small scale, like on planet Earth dealing with normal everyday objects, Euclid's system works pretty well. Because all of the variables that he doesn't state or doesn't understand are there are so insignificant as to be meaningless. But yeah, 2 plus 2 equals 4 is actually a really bad example for anyone that understands actual logic. It's really bad. And it shows you basically don't understand math, or how it was formed, or why, or how postulates work in mathematics. You are just absolutely going off of nonsense. Please read the elements. Please go look at how math works. I promise you, you're wrong. That's a good answer. That's actually a really good answer. I don't know is a good answer. If you don't have the education, why are you arguing or talking about this in the first place? That right there fucking pisses me off. Because my education is in biology, chemistry, and math. I was a biochem major. I don't know a lot about philosophy. I don't know a shit ton about sociology. I have to get that information from other people. And you know how I get that information from other people? Having fucking conversations with them. That's the whole point of this kind of channel. Not just mine, but Vosh's, fucking all of BreadTube, all of the fascists. We're all trying to get our own ideas out there and talk to other people who have similar ideas. That's the whole fucking point of this. And if this motherfucker here, and I don't make appearance jokes, because I recognize my own is not necessarily the pinnacle of 10 out of 10 chattery. Whatever. I'm not going to sit here and make jokes about this guy, but this fucking Lucky Clover hat wearing motherfucker, what's this guy's name? I actually don't know. I pulled this up because it was, I saw a Vosh takedown pop through my feed, and I was like, what? And I looked through 6 minutes, I'm like, oh, I have to fucking talk about this asshole. Rem the Bath Boy, 3.1 thousand subscribers. That's actually really, really high in comparison to me. So I probably shouldn't be talking shit about 3.3 and 12,000 views. That's, honestly, that's impressive, my man. That's really good. But fuck you. Like, actually go fuck yourself. YouTube is being real slow today. I don't know why the stream is lagging it this much. Oh well, I don't care. Oh. Oh no. A wild cat. Hold on a second. Hi. Hello there. Come here. Come here. Come on. No? Don't want to. There we go. Oh no. Settle down. Sorry. Someone needs attention. And she doesn't know how to get it other than standing there and screaming. I haven't loved her enough today. Alright. Let's keep going with this guy. Oh. It's probably because I'm flipping between screens, right? Probably because I've got the live stream up on this screen. I'm checking like how the status is going, making sure I'm still live, stuff like that. With OBS, maybe that's what's causing all this lag. I'll have to investigate that later. Except that's postmodernism. And most fascists hate postmodernism. Yeah, but that's a really, really simplistic definition of fascism right there. That's really fucking small. Like, there's fascism is so fucking complex in terms of that. You needed a whole, like, multiple books written about that sort of shit. Whereas in, like, socialism and communism, at least in simplistic terms, can actually be identified pretty easily. Same with capitalism, same with liberalism, same with conservatism. They've got very easy, like, they're very easy to diagnose, very easy to point out, whereas in fascists are not just irrational, they're intentionally irrational. It's like ultra nationalistic paleo something. It's really, really fucking long definition, and I don't remember what it is. Palingenic ultranationalism. I think that's the word. And the fact that he's come to different conclusions. That's also different. That's kind of important. And then he's just like a fascist to you then. Yeah, there you go. He's like a fascist to you. He's not actually a fascist, but he's a fascist. It's like, no, he isn't. Fuck off. Because if they come to different conclusions, then he's not part of the same political system. Like, that's... If you're arguing the underlying way in which he reaches a conclusion is the same as a fascist, that's basically the same with everyone. Most people use the same tools or similar set of tools in their toolbox, but a set of epistemological tools is something you actually have to, like, build upon. So, yes, he has some characteristics similar to it. I will not argue that. But so do liberals, so do conservatives, so do all socialists, so do communists, so do monarchists, all of them. So yeah, he used similar ways to get to a different conclusion is not actually an argument. It's almost like he's a utilitarian. It's almost like he has a utilitarian underpinning, which I kind of agree with. I think motivation is somewhat important, but if your motivation for saving millions of people, right, that's your motivation, I want to save 1,000,000 people, and the outcome is the complete opposite, your motivation kind of doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that what you meant to do was help people. What matters is that, you killed millions of people. Whereas then, if you're going off trying to create some kind of, let's say you're like a literal Nazi scientist, like a literal Nazi scientist, and your whole thing is trying to create some kind of chemical, biological weapon to kill all the non-white people, and you end up creating a cure to cancer, like, I'm still going to use that cure to save people from cancer. It doesn't matter that a literal Nazi scientist made it. I think that's kind of an important point. Like, there is a point where intentions should be factored in, but that point is much, much smaller and much, much less, much, much more personal, right? It has to be a much more personal thing. Because when you're dealing with big, massive questions, when you're dealing with, like, the planet and how we deal with things and the world, you have to deal with the fact that your personal opinions aren't going to end up meaning much. Sorry, your personal motivations aren't going to end up meaning much. Because if I'm going out to fix all the problems and end up, adding to the problems, right? It's every left-wing politician that's ever gotten to power. Like, real power. They have very good motivations, very good ideas, very good conclusions, and then they do bad things, and it really doesn't matter that what they said originally, what they set out to do, was good. Like how China's ended up. Like, okay, Mao had some great ideas, some great positions, but then, like, actually having built it, it's nowhere near what all of those things were saying, because they had to, deal with reality. They had to live within a real framework and deal with real problems that aren't completely philosophical and isolated. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems that I have with philosophy, is that you can ponder a question forever. You can literally sit there and ponder a single question for the rest of your life. Just adding and subtracting variables, because when you live in the real world, things are always more complex than whatever you've come up with in your head. And you're going to have to deal with the fact that there are variables outside of your control, things you can't do. Like avocados in the Mexican cartel. So anybody who didn't watch this video and didn't know that avocados are taxed by cartels didn't know that until this moment, when they enjoyed their delicious guacamole, they were paying drug cartels. Does that make them bad people? No. Right? But does that mean that the action was good? No, it wasn't. It was a bad thing. It supported drug cartels. But then again, you look at the whole size of the planet and all of the interconnected systems, and you eventually realize that any consumption, any buying of anything is unethical. Like, all of it. Do you eat meat? Unethical. Do you eat plants? Unethical. Well, what can you eat? The best answer, the easiest one, is to either grow your own food or buy from local suppliers who have, less chains or less individual things in the chain, or find some larger state or provincial or national suppliers of which you are fairly reasonable, right? The idea is to get things from closer and more local in order to be able to more successfully control that. But I live in Winnipeg. I can't grow avocados. Like, I live in Canada. Do you think we can grow avocados here? No. Fucking of course we can't. So my choice is either don't ever eat an avocado for the rest of my life, or contribute to that system. And the whole basis is that you need a new system. You need to rebuild that system. Okay. I need to finish this video. No. Doing will and will not assert has nothing to do with outcomes. You can assert something and lie about it and do something different. It's about outcomes. To force an ideology, it's arguments. If you can out-argue him, you win. Like, it really is that simple. I mean, yeah, that's politics. And then you get into power and people see what you actually believe. Like, that's all of politics. Like, yeah, you should be truthful, but if you just lie for power and then get into power and do whatever you want, it is a more effective strategy. Not a good or moral strategy, but it is more effective. I mean, I'm assuming that's a joke. I'm hoping that's a joke. But I believe it's actually a little bit more complex than that. Pretty much what he said was, if you don't agree with my position and our positions, our presuppositions are so fundamentally different that we don't agree on things in such a fundamental way that it has to be one or the other. Like, because they honestly, he will kill them because they will kill him. It's almost like someone can change their mind about something or make jokes, because I actually don't know the basis behind that. If someone disagrees with his assumptions to the point that he cannot argue and they are doing harm to the world, that's okay with use of. Yep, right there. And that's true of everybody. Everybody is perfectly okay with doing violence to people who they think are fundamentally different from them. Just ask people who disagree with pedophiles. Do you believe pedophiles should be harmed? Most people say yes. Because they don't believe that that's unethical. They think it's okay, and if they don't think it's okay, they probably, check themselves in for mental help. I should say pederasts, because pedophiles are people who have a mental illness. Pederasts are people who actually rape children. If you're a pedophile, go seek mental help. Go get help. If you're a pederast, go to prison. Don't come out. We don't want you. So is everyone's. Everyone's positions are based on their own subjective understanding of the world. Yes, unironically. Yeah, his position can change over time if presented with better evidence. Again, that is how you should work. You should not be starting from a position of I am right, I have objective truth on my side, nothing can convince me. Because if nothing can convince you, why are you having this conversation? Except to try and convince the other person. You're believing that the other person is not working under the same sort of thing that you are. And now begins the backpedal. And now begins, well, I mean, I'm not actually saying that he's lying, but he's lying. But I'm not saying that he's lying. My opponent was so stupid that they couldn't even understand how stupid they were. Again, this is not an argument. This is just throwing insults post hoc. I mean, I guess that's what I'm doing too. I'm making fun of this guy. And honestly, he does seem pretty smart. He doesn't seem like he's not completely stupid. It's just that it seems like he takes specific issue with Bosch in this argument, and specifically, is attacking him. Man, my YouTube has been very laggy throughout all of this. How much? Holy shit. Fine, whatever. Try to finish it. I've been going for an hour and a half already. Holy crap. Yeah, and again, by this guy's definition, everyone is a fascist. Except for him. All of the people are fascists but me. Ultimate enlightened centrist take. I am above everyone, everyone else is the real fascist, because they have an ideology. Metaphysics can be used to justify anything ever. You can always justify something through metaphysics. Again, he's making contradictory statements repeatedly. This is why I hate philosophers. Because everything that they say could stop with, of course, the complete opposite could also be true. Oh my god. beat them at rhetoric. No, I mean, I don't agree with everything Bosch says. I just want to make that very clear. I do think he's very good at what he does. I just don't necessarily agree with everything that he Bosch is, oh man. Oh, that's a great take. Bosch is literally Jordan Peterson. Holy fucking shit. Not impossible. People do it all the fucking time. Have you seen the amount of MAGA cope? I guess not. It's very easy with what's going on in the world right now to see a bunch of people who are not actually identifying with objective reality, but are in fact simply just choosing to believe whatever makes them feel good. Everyone believes they're right. Okay, this is just boring the ever shit out of me. Let's see what's on new on BreadTube here. I got a beginning thing because this is just an old video. This is just for takedown's sake. I don't really know. It was fun. I enjoyed dunking on this for a bit, but it's just, holy crap! It's another 17 more minutes, and honestly, these guys are just going in incomplete circles here, and I can't do this anymore. Let's move on. Do some rational act. Let's get into a bit more BreadTubey, a bit more recent. A bit more recent. Oh, gotta sharpen that argumentative ability. So let's see what this is. Oh, wow. Okay. The fuck's going on with the damn quality here? No. At least 720. Come on. Come on. Yes. There we go. Yeah, that's base as fuck. I really wish my country would fucking stop selling guns to Saudi Arabia and supporting the Yemen conflict. Holy fucking shit. Oil pipeline too. Biden hasn't been great, but he's been consistently pretty goddamn good for this last little while. Uyghurs in China's pretty big, but yeah, and Rojava pretty big too. But yeah, what's happening in Yemen is just absolutely, utterly absurd. I say absurd. It's just pathetic, frankly. Yeah, I saw that. I heard about that. Woo. That's fantastic. That's incredible. Honestly. Yeah, nothing's gonna change. Honestly, again, with the pipeline, now this stuff, the readmittance of a bunch of LGBT issues, Biden has been, again, not bad. Oh yeah, I was 100% on board with that. I almost didn't believe that anything would change because honestly, I expected Biden to come in office, do a few changes on day one, and then basically do nothing. Not attempt to push anything through, not attempt to change anything. But frankly, I have been surprised. I am not yet at pleased. I am not yet at, oh my god, you guys need to vote him in for a second term. But honestly, I am way happier than I expected to be. Yep. To be fair, he was vice president. Obama was actually president, so I would put more of the blame on Obama than Biden. But yeah, that's at least fair. Right, because if you just only ever criticize the government, if you only ever tell them, no, it's not enough, do more, do more, do more, be better, be better, be better, they're going to go, what the fuck do you want? Like, what do you want from us? And eventually they're just going to stop bothering because if they do nothing, they're going to get exactly the same criticism if they do things. If they actively line their own pockets, they're going to get exactly the same amount of criticism as if they were doing good things. You have to give the wins where they are. You have to do the positives where they are. I mean, yeah. No, well, duh. Name a single thing that didn't. This fucking guy. Fucking. I hate talking about Trump still. I hate the fact that he's still someone we have to bring up over and over again. I wish he would just go away. Holy crap. Well, yeah, but again, you have to give the positives where they come. Otherwise, you're always just being like, no, you're fucking bad. Always. Giving them any incentive to actually do anything. Humanitarian puts Yemen war costed. Holy fucking shit. Almost 250,000 people. Indirect causes. Yeah, famine. Yeah, there you go. Malnutrition, basic health services. Yeah, even if you're not killing people, the fact that you're destroying their ability to eat, you're destroying infrastructure, you're destroying health services, that's just gonna completely fuck that country. It's gonna just destroy it. That's really fucking sad.